Welcome, brave souls, to the fire's flickering light, where shadows dance and whispers of the unknown drift on the wind. I'm Sam Hain, your guide through the eerie tales that haunt the darkest corners of your imagination. Tonight, we gather around the flames to uncover stories that will chill your bones, make your heart race, and keep you looking over your shoulder. From ancient legends to ghastly encounters, these tales are not for the faint of heart. So, stoke the fire, lean in close, and prepare yourself for a journey into the realm of the strange and the sinister. Are you ready to be afraid? Let the storytelling begin.
I never intended to spend the night in the forest. It was to be a quick detour, a scenic route to clear my mind after a long, stressful week. But as the shadows stretched longer, and the sun sank behind the jagged treeline, I realised I'd underestimated how quickly night falls around here. The road, little more than a gravel path, cutting through the dense woods, had no signs of civilization for miles. The trees were unnaturally tall, their twisted branches clawing at the darkening sky. My phone's GPS lost signal hours ago, and the map I had printed was laughably vague. I kept telling myself I'd find a clearing or maybe a road sign, but the deeper I drove, the more the forest seemed to close in around me. When the engine sputtered and died, I wasn't even surprised. It felt inevitable, as if the forest had decided I'd gone far enough. I tried restarting the car, but the engine only coughed weakly before falling silent. Resigned, I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the crisp night air. The silence was the first thing I noticed. Not the pleasant quiet of nature, but a suffocating stillness. No rustling leaves, no animal sounds, not even the distant hoot of an owl. It was as though the entire forest was holding its breath. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating the gravel road ahead and the dense undergrowth on either side. I decided to follow the road on foot, hoping it would eventually lead me back to safety. The air grew colder as I walked, and the flashlight's beam seemed weaker with every step. The trees loomed closer, their trunks narrowed and blackened, as if scorched by some ancient fire. I tried to shake off the growing unease, blaming it on my overactive imagination. But then I saw the footprints. They were faint, but unmistakable, pressing into the soft dirt of the road. Bare, human footprints, far too large to be normal. They seemed fresh, the edges crisp and undisturbed. I stopped, my breath clouding in the air, and scanned the area with my flashlight. The beam caught movement, a fleeting shadow that disappeared behind a tree. My heart pounded as I called out, my voice sounding small and fragile in the oppressive silence. No response. I pressed on, my pace quickening, the road beginning to deteriorate, the gravel giving way to uneven dirt. The forest seemed to grow darker, the trees crowding in until the branches intertwined overhead, blocking out even the faint light of the crescent moon. The footprints continued, leading me deeper into the woods. And then I saw it. Cabin, barely visible through the trees. It sat in a small clearing, its windows dark and its roof sagging under the weight of years. The footprints led straight to its door. I hesitated, every instinct screaming at me to turn back. But the thought of spending the night exposed in the forest was even less appealing. The cabin's door creaked loudly as I pushed it open. Inside, the air was damp and heavy, carrying the faint, metallic tang of rust or dried blood. The flashlight revealed a single room, sparsely furnished, with a rotting table, a broken chair, and a fireplace filled with ash. On the far wall hung a large, cracked mirror. Something about it made my skin crawl, and I couldn't look away. As I approached the mirror, my reflection seemed wrong. The movements were slightly delayed, as if the image were a half-second behind me. My breath hitched, and I reached out to touch the glass. The moment my fingers brushed the surface, the reflection grinned. Not me, just the reflection. Its mouth stretched impossibly wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. I stumbled back, dropping the flashlight, which flickered, then went out. The cabin plunged into darkness. My breath came in short, panicked gasps as I fumbled to turn the flashlight back on. When the beam finally flickered to life, the mirror was empty. My reflection was gone. The sound of footsteps echoed from outside, heavy, deliberate, and getting closer. I backed away from the door, my heart hammering in my chest. The footsteps stopped just outside, followed by a deafening silence. Then the door creaked open, inch by inch. I didn't wait to see what was on the other side. Dropping the flashlight, I bolted for the back of the cabin, slamming into the wall and clawing at the boards until I found a loose one. I squeezed through the gap, splinters tearing at my skin, and I ran into the forest. Branches whipped at my face, and roots threatened to trip me, but I didn't dare stop. Eventually, I stumbled onto the road, collapsing in a heap. The forest was still silent, but I could feel eyes on me, watching from the shadows. When I finally dared to look back, the cabin was gone. Only the endless trees remained, their twisted branches reaching for the sky. I never found my car. By dawn, I'd made it to a main road, where a passing trucker picked me up. I told him I'd gotten lost hiking and left out the rest. He gave me a strange look, but didn't press further. Even now, safe in my apartment, I can't shake the feeling that something followed me. Some nights, I hear footsteps outside my door. Heavy, deliberate, and impossibly familiar. I try to move on. Back in Glasgow, surrounded by noisy cars and bustling streets, it should have been easy to dismiss what happened in that forest as a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and fear. I told myself it was the stress talking. That mirror, a trick of the light. The reflection, my own distorted face in the cracked glass. But every time I passed by a window, every time I caught my reflection in a puddle or a pane of glass, I felt a flicker of doubt, a hesitation, like the image staring back wasn't quite me. I started keeping the curtains drawn. The footsteps came again last night. They began just after midnight, slow and steady, echoing in the hallway outside my flat. I live on the third floor of an old building with no lift, and my flat is the last one on the end of the corridor. There's nowhere to go unless you're coming to see me. But no one ever knocks. I've started recording the sounds. At first, it was to prove to myself I wasn't going crazy. But when I listened back to the latest one, the footsteps weren't all I heard. Just beneath the creaking floorboards, something else whispered. It was faint, like breathing. Wet, gurgling, laboured. And then a voice, garbled and hoarse, said my name. I didn't sleep after that. This morning, I decided to revisit the forest. It sounds insane, I know, but something inside me, a pull I can't explain, insisted I go back. Maybe it's unfinished business. Maybe I left something behind. Maybe something left with me, and it wants to return. I packed a bag with food, water and a fresh flashlight. I also brought a new phone with offline maps, and I printed directions to the area from several sources. I even told a co-worker I was taking a weekend hiking trip, just in case I went missing again. It felt melodramatic, but what else could I do? The drive out was eerily familiar. The road hadn't changed, but everything felt wrong. The trees leaned close, the light seemed dimmer, and my GPS failed before I hit the tree line this time. When I reached the same stretch where my car had broken down, I slowed the vehicle to a crawl, half expecting the engine to die on cue. It didn't. I parked on the gravel and stepped out, scanning the woods. The silence was still there, thick and unnatural. I listened for birds, insects, anything. But the forest remained dead. The air had that same metallic tang, faint but present, like blood in the back of your throat. I followed what was left of the old road on foot. Hours passed, or maybe just minutes. Time moves differently here. Eventually, the dirt path reappeared, and with it, the footprints. Fresh again, bare, inhumanly large. I told myself I wouldn't follow them this time, but I did. The forest welcomed me with its sickly hush, and soon, like before, the trees closed in until the sky was a distant memory. The light dimmed, my flashlight flickered even though the batteries were new. And then, like it had never left, the cabin reappeared. The same sagging roof, the same cracked windows. Only this time, the door was already open, and the mirror waiting. The threshold felt like a wound. Crossing it sent a chill up my spine, as though the air inside the cabin had been waiting, watching for my return. The temperature dropped instantly, my breath fogged in front of me, and the floorboards groaned underfoot, louder than they should have. The mirror was still there, hanging like a gaping mouth on a far wall, its surface smeared now, foggy, streaked with fingerprints that didn't match mine. As I stepped closer, the air grew heavier, thick with the coppery stench of old blood and damp rot. This time, I didn't reach for it. Instead, I circled the room, flashlight sweeping over the furniture I remembered, the splintered table, the broken chair, the fireplace full of ash. But now there were additions, a small pile of bones in the corner, too small for an animal. A strip of fabric snagged on the windowsill, red, like the shirt I had been wearing the night I'd fled. But I'd torn that shirt escaping through the back wall. How did it get here? The flashlight flickered again, and in that brief darkness, I heard it. The grin. It's a sound I can't explain. Not really. Not laughter, not movement, just the sickening wet stretch of flesh peeling back in a smile too wide for any human face. When the beam came back, the mirror was no longer empty. There I stood, my reflection, just as before, but this time it moved first. It lifted a hand and waved. I froze, my arms were at my sides. The reflection tilted its head, slowly, its grin spreading wider. Then it pressed its hand against the inside of the glass. Fingers long and bony, nails blackened, skin pale and waxy, like something long dead. It mouthed something, a single word. Stay. I stumbled back, bumping into the table, knocking the chair to the floor with a crash. But the mirror didn't flinch. It only watched, hungry and patient. Behind me, the cabin door slammed shut. I spun around. Nothing there. No wind, no hands. Then came the footsteps again. Not outside this time. From beneath. A trap door. I hadn't noticed it before. Half concealed beneath the table. The edges hidden by dust and years of neglect. But now it was clear as day, pulsing faintly with heat as though something alive waited underneath. I should have run, but something compelled me. Some primal, inexplicable urge to understand. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was madness. Or maybe deep down, I already knew I wouldn't make it out again. I needed to see what had called me back. I knelt and pulled open the trapdoor. A gust of rancid air struck me, thick with decay and something worse. Something ancient. A narrow staircase led down into total blackness. Stone walls, slick with moisture, disappeared into the void. And from below, I heard breathing. Slow, rhythmic, like something enormous slumbered in the dark. The mirror behind me whispered my name, and I descended. The air thickened with every step. I descended into darkness, the beam of my flashlight barely cutting through the murk. The stairs creaked and groaned beneath my weight, and the walls seemed to close in, damp stone pressing against me like a throat tightening. The breathing I'd heard above was louder now, impossibly deep, echoing all around me. It wasn't just one thing, it was many, exhaling in unison, waiting. The staircase ended in a chamber. It was circular and low-ceilinged, carved from rough stone and slick with condensation. Strange symbols had been etched into the walls, jagged, looping marks that hurt to look at, as if my mind rebelled at the attempt to understand them. At the centre of the chamber was a mirror, larger than the one in the cabin, taller than me, framed in rusted iron. And it was pulsing. The glass throbbed with a heartbeat I could feel in my bones. It wasn't a reflection I saw on its surface. It was a window. On the other side was a forest, twisted and black, with trees that bled and a sky that wept ash. Shapes moved among the trunks, tall, spindly things, with elongated limbs and hollow eyes. They weren't walking. They were waiting. My light dimmed again, but the chamber grew brighter, not from the flashlight, but from the mirror itself. The pulsing grew faster, the whispering began. Voices, countless, layered and broken, a choir of cracked glass. They spoke in unison, in a tongue older than thought. But somehow, I understood. You are the door. I stumbled backward, but the chamber wouldn't let me leave. The staircase was gone, replaced by a solid wall of stone. I was trapped. And the mirror opened, not shattered, opened. The glass folded inward like torn skin, peeling back to reveal the forest within. The creatures moved now, fast, purposeful, hungry. And from among them stepped a figure I recognised with a jolt of horror. It was me, or something wearing my face. Its eyes were empty sockets, and its smile was jagged, stretching from ear to ear. Its hands were red. It stepped through the mirror and into the chamber. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It leaned close and whispered in my voice, "Thank you for coming back. I needed you to let me out." And then it reached inside me, not physically, but deeper. My limbs went numb, my vision blurred. I felt it rooting through my thoughts, my memories, pulling them apart like pages in a book. I was unravelling, thread by thread. I tried to scream, but no sound came. The last thing I saw was its reflection in the mirror behind it. Its smile widening as I stood inside the glass now, pounding on the surface from the other side. It turned and walked up the stairs. My body, my voice, and I remained trapped, watching, waiting for the next visitor, because someone has to keep the door open. They found a car weeks later, abandoned along a remote stretch of road near Hunter's Glen. The engine was cold, the doors unlocked. Inside, the driver's license belonged to someone who'd been reported missing. Last seen telling co-workers he was heading out for a short hiking trip. The forest offered no further clues. Search teams combed the area. Dogs sniffed through the dense underbrush, but no trace of him ever surfaced. Just endless trees, a silence too thick for comfort, and stories whispered by locals about the place where the map fades and compasses spin wild. Some said he must have gotten lost, wandered too deep, succumbed to the elements. Others spoke in quieter tones of old legends, the cursed paths, the mirror in the woods. And then, a month later, strange reports began trickling in. People passing through the area started seeing someone standing just inside the tree line, still as a statue, eyes reflecting like glass in the dark. A man who looked familiar, but whose face always seemed a little off, like a wax figure half melted. He never spoke, never moved, just watched. At least, until you blinked. They say if you see him, you should never turn your back. And whatever you do, don't look into any mirrors nearby. Not unless you're ready to see him behind you, smiling with your face. Some doors, once opened, don't lead back out. And some reflections never stop watching. Please like and subscribe for more spooky stories. Bye for now.